You are live. Hey, y'all, everybody. It's JJ Conway. I'm so excited to be here with you today. Is that the same banana from last time? Why are you back on my channel?
Because I love distracting.
Yeah, you're good at that. You're good at it. You're going to distract me today? How are you going to distract me, 6'7" banana?
I'm a 6'7" banana. I'm going to do 6'7" to distract you.
You're distracting me.
Oh, Lord, I need you now more than ever. Would you put my heart back together? I searched the world to my hands just to find you're always better. You're always better. You're always better. Oh, you're always better. Jesus. You're always better. Lord, I am so thankful for the ways that you bless me. Lord, I love how you're making ways like I just keep. You love every part of me, even when I was nasty. Now I am a part of your beauty, so I can finally sing out. Jehovah, our provider. Your way always gets me higher. Even on my darkest days when I try, there's no right way. Oh, Lord, I need you now more than ever. But I put my heart back together. I search the world to my hands just to find you're always better. You're always better. You're always better. You're always better. Jesus, you're always better.
All right. That was lovely. Thank you so much. Say goodnight.
Good night. Oh, remember, kids, never forget 6 or 7.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that little fun moment there. I'm JJ Conway. I want to welcome y'all to our Ladies of Wealth podcast live recording. For those of you who haven't been here before, or it's been a little while, we record live every Thursday night with a free class, and we extract those classes for the podcast. I hope that you will join us Thursday nights live, and if not, you can find the podcast at Spotify, Ghana, whatever Google's calling it. I think it's on YouTube now. All the places you can find podcasts, you can find the Ladies of Wealth podcast. And so today we're going to be talking about real estate investing, and we're going to do something different today. We're going to be doing an Ask Me Anything, an AMA on real estate investing. I'm so excited to be with y'all and share just some of my experiences with some of the questions that have come in over the last couple of weeks. And so if you have a question, I'd like you to go to ladiesofwealth.com/contact, and you will be able to ask your question. In fact, you could also drop it in the chat if you're watching live. You could drop it in the chat if you're watching after the fact, but Facebook deletes the lives after a month, and YouTube, I should be able to get your comment, but with YouTube and LinkedIn, sometimes it doesn't tell me. Okay, so if you've got a comment and a burning question and you really, really want it answered, go to ladiesofwealth.com/contact. And if you want a personal response from me, yes, we do have 10,000 followers on YouTube, but we're still small enough that I can give you a personal response. Enjoy it while it lasts, because when we hit millions, I probably won't be able to do that. But for now, I can give you a personal response if you leave your contact information, but you don't have to. It can be an anonymous question and it'll get answered just the same. All right.
6'7" banana has a question.
6'7" banana has a question. What is the question for 6'7" banana?
How many times can I come on your show?
Every day at the start.
Woohoo!
But I'm gonna get tired of that banana costume pretty soon.
Oh man, it's not a costume.
I don't think they can hear you from over there. So let's stop the conversation now and go to sleep. Go to sleep. We'll talk about it later. Go to sleep, please. Okay, so let me go ahead and show the banner. To ask questions, fill out the anonymous. Oh, no. Let me do that. So I found out today, I have been telling y'all the wrong link to ask a question. I have been saying go to ladiesofwealth.com/ask because the other one was askjjc.com. And before I had that one, it was jjconway.org/ask. And I just got it all mixed up in my head. So let me edit this right now. To ask your questions, post a comment or fill out the anonymous form at Ladies of Wealth /contact. Okay. Now, if again, it does have room for you. I don't want it to scroll the time. I think I just want to save it and display it. What happens if I display it? That's kind of taking up a lot of space. Let's go ahead and show that at the bottom. Okay. All right. Hello again. It's JJ Conway. I want to welcome you again to the Ladies of Wealth podcast. Tonight we're doing our third Thursday class, which is real estate investing. Our first Thursday class is usually Fireside Chat. Our second Thursday is 7-figure business building, where we learn how to add multiple streams of income. Our third Thursday is real estate investing. And then our fourth Thursday is the Empowered Entrepreneur, how to become the person who has what you want out of life. And so every fifth Thursday is kind of a wild card. It might be a replay for me to hang out with my family or something, some crazy topic that's come up. I want to start actually. Let me say that again. I want to start actually doing interviews on the fifth Thursday. So if you think that's something you might be interested in, let me know, because I'm thinking about setting up a link to where you can apply to be a fifth Thursday guest, and you would come in and talk about your business and things like that, since it's outside of our normal schedule. Okay, we'll see. It's a wild card. It's always a wild card, and a lot of times it's fun. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into our AMA today, which is about real estate. So we usually have the Fireside Chat, and I do take real estate questions on the Fireside Chat, but I just had a slew of real estate questions that came in this week, and I thought about it. I was like, we always do kind of a similar lineup with real estate. Let's shake it up a little bit. Let's change it up. And let's go ahead and do an Ask Me Anything. So let me go ahead and pull up the first question. But again, if you've got a question that you'd like to ask, go ahead and drop it in the chat. And then if you don't want to ask, wait, that didn't come out right. If you have a question you want to ask, drop it in the chat. If you would rather ask anonymously, or if you don't want me to list your name, but you want a personal response later on, not necessarily here. Well, none of this is coming out right. Anyway, you can drop your questions in the chat, or you can put them on ladiesofwealth.com/contact. All right. Oh, why is my banner not scrolling? I just made this new scroll banner. There we go. You can post a comment or fill out the form at ladiesofwealth.com/contact. All right. So let me go ahead and pull up the questions that have come in over the week. And then if we don't have any other questions, we'll wrap it up right there. But if we have other questions, then we'll just go ahead and keep asking them. All right. Let's see. Let's make that big text so I can see it over here in the corner while I'm filming. Okay. Oh, I love this question. Our first question for today is, what is one thing you wish before buying your first investment property? Okay, so this is going to be kind of awkward, because my first property that I actually bought that turned into an investment, I did things quote unquote the right way. I paid cash for it. I used a wholesaler. I paid $3,000 for that house. His fee was $3,000. I put 11 into it. It was almost 10 years ago. That thing has been rented to the same wonderful tenant ever since. Okay. And that was the first one that I personally by myself bought. And I had enough mistakes and issues to know what not to do. Okay. But with me and my ex-husband investing, every property turned into a problem. We just didn't know what we didn't know. And so if I could say anything to investors out there, the one thing I wish I'd have known before buying my first investment property would have been, I wish I would have known about real estate investment groups or real estate investment associations. And I'm going to go through the first couple of properties that we bought, and they will explain to you why I wish I'd have been connected with local investors in these groups who could walk us through the ups and downs of the neighborhoods and the decisions that we were about to make. So the very first standalone house that I ever lived in my whole life, and it was the very first property that me and Philip's father built or bought, was a rather highly priced back at the time property $165,000 back when most people in our age were buying properties that were like 75,000, but it had a pool and it had a hot tub and it was in Florida and it was one of those with the screened in backyard, like the whole screen covered the whole pool. Oh y'all, that property was just fabulous. And it was kind of kind of spoiled you for a first property to have bought as your first property and your first house to have ever actually lived in, as opposed to apartments or the hood where he grew up and other things like that, where, you know, base housing, which townhomes was probably the most spacious we ever had. But I was just used to apartment living. And I tell you what, there's just nothing like the privacy and the peace and security of being in your own property. Of course, now that I'm getting older, I'm sure there's going to come a time where I'm happy to be in an apartment or a condo again. But with that property, we were so excited. And then we didn't think we were going to leave Florida. So we bought it with the intention to stay there. But if we had to move, we were going to do like all the military people teach, which is buy a property at your current assignment and then move on to the next assignment and rent that one out, and move on to the next assignment and rent that one out. And sure enough, we bought it with the intention to stay, but then we decided to try. We thought we got jobs somewhere else. And y'all, I wish I would have known. It's hard to rent out a house with a pool. It's hard to, let me rephrase that. It's not hard to rent out a house with a pool. It's hard to get good insurance for a house with a pool, because a pool is considered an attractive nuisance. And if you have a pool, not only do you have to worry about your tenants having a problem with that pool or something happening to one of their kids, their guests' kids, but it's also considered what they call an attractive nuisance, which means unless you take extreme precautions to make sure neighborhood kids don't get in there, they all want to get in there. Now, technically, where we lived, this neighborhood in Florida, everybody had their own pool. So it wasn't really the attractive nuisance in that sense, because everybody had their own pool. They were not trying to come swim in our pool. All right. But that's how insurance looks at it. And we couldn't get insurance at that time. So this was, when did we buy that house? We bought that house in 1998, 99. Somewhere around that, because we weren't there very long. We were there for maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years. And then we moved. We thought we were getting orders to Orlando. We thought we had it all worked out. We had already picked out the house we wanted. Thank goodness we didn't sign we almost did, but we didn't sign the contract. There was a big neighborhood. There was a big ranch or bog kind of thing near Disney that the owner had died, and they turned it into this real estate investment. And now like those houses are worth like, you know, almost $1 million. But at the time they were in the 150s to 200, and we had picked out our house. And thankfully we didn't get it, because we left Florida and went to Oklahoma. And when we left Florida, we discovered we can't rent out that house. We could not get insurance to cover us renting it. I'm sure things are different now. No, I'm not sure. I'm trying to be nice about it. But we could not get our insurance company to cover the house as a rent property, so we sold it. Thankfully, we were there long enough, and Florida was a hot market at the time, especially with a lot of construction going on through the Melbourne to Disney corridor. I forget what they call that, the Beeline Expressway. There's a lot of development that was going on back then. So we didn't make a lot of money off of it, but we didn't lose a lot of money either. But had I known, let me be real with y'all, had I known that we couldn't rent that house out, we didn't need to get a house with a pool. Because here's what you find out. If you have never had a house with a pool and you've never had a house with a hot tub, let me tell you something. Pool upkeep is no joke. Hot tub upkeep, to me, it was even worse, because the hot tub would get algae full even faster than the pool. And in order to keep the hot tub good, then you had to do even more effort constantly. And it seemed to me like the chemicals were harsher, which my skin didn't care for. So yeah, I have a friend here who has both a pool and a hot tub. I'm so glad she does, so I don't have to. Just not my jam. But if I'd have known that we wouldn't have been able to rent it out, I would have gotten a property that was just as nice without that extra amenity. Maybe I would have put in a fountain or something. Okay. The second property in Oklahoma. Now we got to Oklahoma And we were just so sure the Lord had called us to help start this church. My ex-husband was an assistant pastor. We were going to be there for the long haul. We were getting out of the military, and because my commitment was going to be up and his commitment was already up, and we were going to get out of the military and we were going to be on fire for God, ministering to God's people. We quickly started a Bible study up in Guthrie. And I mean, we were just excited about the idea of being there. And we had learned a little bit about real estate. So we decided to buy a new construction. Now, I'm not as thrilled about new construction now, because now it's really like anything else and there's all the realtors and everything. But back then, you didn't have a lot of realtors doing new construction. And so you as an individual, you could get in on the ground floor on phase 0 or phase 1 of a multi-phase construction project, and you could pay one price, but by time your house was done being built, it was worth much more. So you would have a $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 spread in the purchasing of your house versus what you contracted for. I mean, what you contracted for versus the value at purchase. And so we were very excited to do that. And again, we felt like the Lord was calling us to stay there. We knew that we were helping establish this church, but we actually thought we were going to end up having the Bible study in Guthrie become an actual church. So we didn't intend to stay there. We bought this one with the intent to rent it out. Well, what we discovered is just because a builder's been good in the past doesn't mean a builder's always going to be good. And in this case, the builder transferred the business to his son. And these houses in this phase 0, phase 1, they were the first houses his son had built on his own. And as a result, they weren't very good. And as a result, when it came time to sell that house, because we didn't get out of the military, we didn't make any money on it. And we had a very difficult time selling it because of the racial dynamic, unfortunately, which leads me to the next house, which was a big mistake. Actually, no, the next house was a big mistake because we didn't know that real estate goes up and down and up and down. And when it goes down, it can crash hard. Everybody always talks about how real estate goes up, 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 and it doesn't go down. Or if it does go down, it's temporary. And there's a thing that people are putting out there now. Some people say real estate doubles every 7 years. Some people say real estate doubles every 10 years. Some people say real estate doubles every 12 years. I'm here to tell you that's not always true. Because the property we bought at the next assignment, we paid $405,000 for. It was a single family dwelling, a split level style house with a 1-car garage, which in the DC area, we were very happy about it. It is on a half acre with a half-acre conservatory behind it where nobody can build. So it's effectively an acre. And it's just a really nice property. Except that, 2 years after we bought it, on a adjustable interest loan, because real estate always went up. And we just knew, and this is what they told us, this is what they sold us, that, it's going to be adjustable rate mortgage. It's a 7-year arm. By the time the 7 years comes up, you guys are military, you're going to be gone. You're going to sell the house to somebody else and pocket your profit. And then you're not going to have to ever worry about that. That's what they told us. That's what everybody was saying. That's what all of our broke friends were saying. Ooh, yeah, I'm going to throw in a bonus. I'm not Jonas, but I'm going to throw in a bonus. Dr. Jonas, I hope you're watching. I hope you're doing well health-wise and with your ministry there. But I'm going to throw y'all a little bonus here. We'll call it a banana bonus in honor of the 6'7" banana that's trying to get to sleep over here, okay? I'm going to give you a little banana bonus. Do not take financial advice from your broke friends. Do not take financial advice from your brother over here in a conversation at the barbershop. Do not take financial advice from people who seem to always have ups and downs and always need a fundraiser so they can get to the next church meeting or the next event or a GoFundMe for their child's birthday party. Do not take financial advice from these people. Please, sir. Please, ma'am. Do not take financial advice. I don't care how close they are to you. I don't care how much you love them. I don't care how well respected they are in the community. A tree bears fruit, and you will know the person by the fruit that they bear. And if the fruit that they bear is broke, don't listen to the words coming out of their mouth. If the fruit that they bear is broke, then you know that if you listen to them, you will also be broke. But we don't realize that because they come dressed in very affluent packages. They carry the Gucci and they drive the Mercedes and they do the thises and they do the that is. But if they are not walking in financial abundance, do not take financial advice from them. Okay? Deal? Yay. Okay, got that off my chest. So we get this adjustable rate mortgage, a bunch of our friends. Now, I'm thankful we didn't do this. I am very thankful that the Holy Spirit spoke to me on this next thing that I'm about to mention, because everybody was doing this. Everybody, because the real estate market was hot in 2025. 2025, 2026, everybody was refinancing their houses into these interest-only mortgages with a set period, and then it was a balloon at the end. So it was like a 5-year or a 7-year, or some of them was a 3-year. But basically, your mortgage in the DC area went from $2,000 a month to like $200 a month. And what you were supposed to do is you were supposed to invest that rest of that mortgage. And if you invested the rest of the mortgage, the way that these people made it sound so juicy and so good, the way that they made it sound is, well, if you invested in the market, then the market's going to keep going up and up and up like it always does. And you are going to make more money because the interest rates back then were so low. Mathematically, it could have worked. But people don't do math when it comes to their money. Oh, my. People do not do math when it comes to their money, because I don't know one person who got into that business who actually took the difference of what they made and invested it. Let me tell you what they did. They went shopping. They went on vacations. Some of them did fix up their home at first, and then lifestyle creep took over, and they eventually ran their lifestyle to the amount of money that they had available to them. And when it came time for the balloon payments, or when it came time to refinance the house, now the market had crashed. So I'm at least thankful we made a mistake, but we didn't make more mistakes. And I'm thankful for that, because I was trying to do the math and I couldn't really figure it out. And I was like, there's got to be something to this. There's got to be a reason why this is not good. And the reason why it wasn't good is human behavior. So I need you to pay attention to this, and I need you to hear this, what I'm saying. I'm not saying this to be mean. I'm not saying this to be contrary. I lost a lot of good speakers, and clients, students of mine, when I talked about the difference in insurance plans and how whole life insurance was not good for everybody, and that most people who made out well with the whole life insurance packages are the ones in the hotel room selling it to you. Okay. And so, I'm not saying it's not good for some cases. I'm saying it's not good for most of the people who are paying for it. Okay. And so I lost a lot of really good people on that. And I will probably lose a lot of good people off of this comment that I'm about to make, which is, when you find something that everybody is crazy about and they are flocking to do it because they think it's such amazing and it's going to put money in their pocket and it's easy street and it can't fail, don't do it. Don't you do it. I lost friends over that interest only thing. I had people who were like, you're taking money out of my pocket. I'm like, how am I taking money out of your pocket? You shouldn't have counted on my money anyway without asking me. I lost friends over that. To be fair, I probably lost friends over my big mouth, and they probably used that as an excuse, but I lost friends over that. And you know where those friends are now? Broke. Okay, so if everybody's going into something, you hold back and watch. Do the math for yourself, okay? Because usually the only people building wealth are the people bringing you into it, okay? So now, we have this adjustable rate, 7-year ARM, adjustable rate mortgage is going to be in place for 7 years. And of course, everybody says real estate doubles in 7 years. Some people say real estate doubles in 10 years. Some people are conservative and say real estate doubles in 12 years, but not that year, because in just 2 years after we bought the house, the market crashed. Oh, yes, it did. And when we moved to our next duty assignment in 2008, that house that was worth 400, that we paid 405 for, was only worth 180. And that house today is still not worth over 400. It has just now climbed to where I can actually sell it for what was owed on it. Y'all, you have to look at the numbers and you have to look at sound common sense. And you cannot allow somebody else to make money off of you playing these real estate games, thinking that and filling your head with all these talk about riches and wealth and estates. And, oh, you're going to be able to leave this to your children. Well, sure, I can leave it to my children. But you know what I would have rather done? Got a cheaper house. I would have rather got a cheaper house. If somebody came up to me, no, I that tone. Let me fix my tone. I'm not trying to say mean because they weren't being mean. I think they were actually trying to help me like do my taxes or something like that. It might have been one of Ibarra's team members. She's an amazing CPA, y'all. Wealth building CPA. Let me give her a shout out. Oh yes, they are amazing. I am not the best client, I know, but I'm going to do better in 2025. Taxes in 2026. I am going to do better. I have almost got them prepared. So if you're listening to me, I promised many times before, and she's probably shaking her head like, you keep saying that every year. But this year, I actually have taken action. I have actually been tracking all of my expenses all year. So I haven't waited until April. Okay, not about me, about you. Let me get you to the question, okay? That property, when people start talking to you about, oh, you're going to make all this money, and they start playing up all your emotions, you have to put a pause. And I'm not saying emotions isn't fun to get caught up with. Like if I go to the Dallas store and I'm trying on Louboutins, I'm getting into the process. I am not just going in to buy an expensive pair of shoes that are going to hurt my feet because I'm too fat to wear them. Okay. I'm going in for an experience. I'm going in to be treated like royalty. I'm going in for the drama and the emotion of the moment. Okay. That's shoes. That is not real estate. Real estate needs to be about the numbers. And we have to follow sound principle. And what was happening at that time in the market is the house prices were increasing so fast. Somebody would buy something today and they'd hold it for a day or two and put it on the market for $50,000 more. And they weren't even fixing it up or doing anything to it except holding it a day. And things were selling. They were selling out so fast. We lost out on so many different properties. And you get caught up in the frenzy. Oh, don't get caught up in the frenzy. Don't get caught up in the frenzy. Because you get caught up in the frenzy, you're going to make a financial mistake. And what we didn't know, because we were so young and inexperienced with real estate, what we didn't know is that when the market is shooting up like that, that's a sign that the market's about to crash. That's a sign that the real estate's about to crash. That's a sign that the market, they call it a correction. They call it softening, okay? It may not crash, Everybody gets so frustrated with the way that interest rates are going, but what the Fed's trying to do is soften the blow of what COVID did to the economy, okay? And so, but when you see prices doing like that, the smart thing would have been for us to rent. Because in 2 years, we could have gone and bought any property we wanted for pennies on the dollar, okay? So that's another mistake we made. So clearly, when it came time to buy my property, I'm already a little gun shy, right? But here, let me tell you one more. Because that's not the last of our real estate mistakes. Okay, so we leave from there and we go to Montgomery, Alabama. And this was one of those situations where my ex-husband moved before me, and he already bought the house, and he had his real estate investing. He had real estate investing experience, so I didn't even question. I just figured he knew what to do. But there's something that neither one of us knew about, and it's a concept called white flight. Now, if you don't understand the concept of white flight, if you get tired of people always making everything about race, if you think that people of color and people who have, let's say, come from different countries are always whining and crying about the economic inequalities rather than doing something about it. If you feel like people who complain they can't get ahead because of race should just pull themselves up by their bootstraps and move forward like the rest of the United States real citizens who speak English, because that's what the language is here, even though it's not, and even though everybody here is an immigrant. Oh, did I say that out loud? Yes, I did. If you are one of those people who agree with one of the statements that I have just said, I hope that you will stay online, but you're probably about to get real offended real quick. It's this concept called white flight. It's the unfortunate reality that in many neighborhoods, when Black people or brown people start to move in, everybody else starts to move out. And we think that that was an old Jim Crow thing. Oh, no, it is not an old Jim Crow thing. In fact, I experienced it in my last neighborhood that I lived in before I moved here. I remember the first time I saw an Indian family, I was so excited. Then I saw a Black family and I was so excited. Then I saw another Black family, and then all of a sudden the houses started going for sale. And we lost money on that last house before I moved here. Okay. But what was happening in this other neighborhood is these houses were really great prices. The reason that they were great prices is because all of the people who had been there for centuries, when it was a thriving cradle of the Confederacy neighborhood, were moving to north of the base, and they were selling their properties here, and people of color were moving in. And as more of the shall we say, more established community was moving out, can we just say what it is? As all the white people started moving out, the property values went down further and further and further and further. So when we got to the closing table for that property, it was already overpriced. And by the time we tried to sell that property, we lost $30,000, $40,000 on it because of white flight. And had I known then what I knew now, had I known then what I know now, we would have never bought in that community. We would have bought further out. We would have bought where the neighborhood was maybe a little more tolerant. Although I will say at that time in Alabama, I don't think you could have found a more tolerant, good neighborhood, because I had a friend who taught at one of the large universities, not within a couple mile swath. I don't want to name any names or anything, but they had a cross burning in their yard, and like, go home painted in red on the side of their house. And we're not talking ancient history here. This was like 2008, 2010. I taught at Air University, and they taught at a different place, like a real university. I mean, Air University is a real university, but you know what I mean. Like this, I don't know that we could have, I don't know that Air was any place that would have been very acceptable to us. But when we moved into that neighborhood, and the neighbors came up and told the packers, you can pack all their stuff back up and take them back north where they belong, I already knew it was a long haul, and we should have never kept that house. But all we could think of is, we're here. This is it was a 3,000 square foot house for like $220,000. Like, we were just moved from DC, where that size of a house would have been about $1 million, right? And so we're like happy. And yeah, we should have just sold that house. What would have made the difference in all of these properties that I'm telling you about? Number one, with the pool. Okay. Number two, with the new construction, where it was a really reputable company, but the person who was doing the building was brand new. He was the son. He had been with the dad on other builds, but he'd never done one on his own. Okay. That was number two. And then number three, the 405, the market crashed, and it was 180. Okay. And then number four, the impact of white flight on the property values of the home. What could have helped me avoid all those mistakes? A real estate investment group, a real estate investment association. Had we connected with other local investors. Now, in Alabama, I'm going to qualify and say there may not have been a group of Black people investors. I don't know, because the systemic racism there is very real. It is one of the, if you have never lived in Montgomery, Alabama, and if you are not a person of color, even if you have lived there, you may not understand it. But even some of my classmates some of my fellow teachers were like, wow, yeah, this place is, I've never lived in a place like this. Some of that, I don't know if we could have found one that would have accepted us. But for the most part, in any metropolitan area, and many also lighter populated areas, you will find real estate investment groups, real estate investment associations, and they will be able to tell you, hey, the properties on this are going down because a lot of people are moving out. They may not call it white flight. They may not know that's what it is, but they could at least tell you that. They could have told you, hey, when the market's going crazy like this, unless you're buying it for an investment, hold your horses. They could have told us, if we had listened. They could have told us in Oklahoma, if we had joined, a group, and we could have known, hey, Don't pay retail for this because this guy is not tested. So one thing I wish I would have known before buying my first investment property, because all of those properties we lived in, we had intended to rent them out. I wish I would have known to first connect with a real estate investment association. And you can connect with a lot of them online before you even go into that market, because a lot of them are online now, or you can go out and visit once or twice just to get a feel of how investors are in that area. What are the rules in that area? What are the things you need to watch out for in that area? It makes a huge difference. Now, if you're just buying a pretty house to live in, well, buy a pretty house to live in and buy what you can afford reasonably and buy something that you like. But if you are buying to invest, don't buy a house based on pretty house qualifications. All right. We'll talk about that next time in a different question. But I think I have filled one episode already with just that question alone. So I hope that y'all enjoyed it. Okay. So the next question kind of feeds into my answer that I just had, and that is, how do you determine whether it's worth it to invest in real estate? And this is a multi-pronged question, because I guess I thought when I cut and pasted these into my thing, I thought this was asking how I thought this was asking, excuse me, let me see if I can rephrase it. When I first saw this question, I thought it was asking, how do I determine whether or not a property is good to buy? But I'm not sure that that's the actual question here. This question, now that I reread it for y'all live in public, it may be asking, well, is it worth it to even do real estate right now? Okay, so I'm going to answer both questions. Okay, the first question is whether or not it's worth it to invest in real estate right now. I am a financial planner. I'm not your financial planner. I used to be a realtor. I will be again soon a realtor, but I'm not your realtor. Okay. I'm giving general observations and general constructs that people can use in a general capacity. Okay. You hire your own professional people. I am not a lawyer and I don't play one on TV. So, you hire your own professionals to tease out this answer. But I personally don't see the kind of signals that would cause me to think this is a horrible time to buy real estate. Oh, but what about the interest rates? The interest rates are so high. The interest rates are a lot lower than when I bought my first house. In fact, when we first started looking for a house and started thinking about buying a house, the interest rates were like 12, 14%. And we didn't buy a house because we weren't together yet. We were at separate bases. But by the time we came together and bought a house, I think we paid 7 or 8% interest on that property. And it was a blessing to us. So yeah, interest rates are high, but interest rates are going to be high and interest rates are going to dip low, and then they're going to be high and then they're going to dip low. What matters as far as buying a property is not the interest rate, it's the profit. And you can profit in any economy. You can profit with any interest rate. You can profit as long as you're buying the property in a profitable manner. Okay. Does that mean you're not going to, if you follow my guidelines, you're never going to come across a dog of a property? Well, of course, that always can happen from here to there. But if you buy property the way that I teach it, that dog of a property is not going to ruin your life. It's not going to set you back and cause you to be bankrupt. Okay. So that's the difference. It'll be a blip. It'll be a frustration. It'll be a minor inconvenience, or maybe a little bit of a major moderate inconvenience, but it won't ruin your life. It won't hamstring your future. And that's why I like the way I teach it, even though there's others that have bigger, badder, more grown and sexy methods for real estate investing. Okay. So the answer to the question, it might have been, is it worth it right now to be investing in real estate? Yes, 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 and yes. Okay. The question that I really want to answer, and I thought originally that's what they were asking, is how do I determine whether a property is profitable? for real estate, okay? Because not every property is going to be profitable for real estate. And I'm not going to pretend I'm some guru who has it all figured out. Like if you were part of our tax sales class, you heard me talk about this little strip that I bought between two neighbors, right? And I mean, the strip that I got, it was 100% ownership of this little strippy of land, maybe, but like total acreage, I think was like 0.1, but it was a long strippy between neighbors. And I just knew one of them would buy it. I'm like, you know what? I paid $350 for ownership of this parcel. And I'm sure I can sell it for $1,000 to this person or that person. Somebody's going to want to expand legally their land, right? And I had already, look, I had to go make sure somebody hadn't already encroached. Because, if they already had done encroached and they've been that way for 15 years, legally it's theirs anyway. They can file something in the paperwork and they can take it in that particular market. And so, I'd already made sure they hadn't encroached on it. But I just thought that was going to happen. And you know what? It didn't happen. That was the $350 that I lost. But in that tax sale, I made thousands of dollars on other things. And I still have some properties that I'm 100% owner of, So yay me. And sometimes things don't work out the way they work out, the way you want them to. But the way that I look at whether or not it's going to be worth it in the first place is I'll look at my use cases. Can I conceivably profit from this, that, or the other? And in the case of that little strippy, it was conceivable that I could profit. And I may still profit. From it. Okay. Who knows? Maybe in the future I will profit from it. Okay. But at this point, the profit is not in my pocket. And that might be one that might be one where I just never get it together. I don't know. We'll see what happens. With it. But I look at the profit. And then sometimes I will buy something that's not profitable because my heart wants to use that parcel to do something in the community. And you have to avoid doing that a lot. Like I did that with one. I'm still holding on to it because it's in a community. I mean, this is let me again, I'm about to say something that's offensive, but this is in one of those older Black neighborhoods in Louisiana. They don't even have roads. It's not even roads to get to some of these properties. Like some of these houses, you basically have to park one place and walk through grass and other houses to get to their house. Like I haven't seen a neighborhood like that in the United States, and it's there. And so I have this one little parcel, and I keep thinking that one day I'm going to go back to Louisiana. And I keep thinking that one day when I do go back to Louisiana, that I'm going to do something for the community on that parcel. Well, I don't know what that's going to be or when it's going to be, but for me, it's like, okay, I'm going to have to pay to mow it, and I'm going to have to pay to do this, and I'm going to have to pay to do that. And it's just going to be money out of my pocket for a little bit, but that's because it's for a good cause. So that one I'm not looking at as profit. That one I'm looking at as an investment, a future investment in the property. The property that I own is very well situated in that. The land, it's a piece of land that's very well situated to be a blessing to that community. Okay. So that's down the line. At this rate, we might never get back. Okay. I don't even have to be in Louisiana. We can be on the Texas side of the border and not have to pay state income tax. I'm really good with that. Just disclaimer, I have paid tax on the money that I've earned in Louisiana. Okay. But for my business, I still have a business there. But most of the things it's dollars and cents. If they redeem the property, if I buy a tax sale, which is predominantly how I'm buying right now is through tax sales. If they redeem this, I'm going to make money. If they don't redeem it, can I make money? And so then I do a numbers analysis, and that's how I determine whether or not I'm going to buy it. When it comes to properties, like buy and hold properties that aren't tax sales, it's the same thing. And I use very conservative estimates. Oh, well, you're just, you know what though? I sleep well at night. I'm not worried about this, that, and the other because I bought the property well, and I don't have payments that keep me up at night when the renter leaves. Okay. And so I'm very happy about that. And, truth in advertising, that house that was 405 and went to 180 and still hasn't come back. It has a mortgage. If y'all ever heard me a couple years ago, we kept having contracts on it, and I kept thinking it was going to be sold. So I was like, yeah, I'm debt free. Well, I'm not debt free. I have a positive cash. I have a very healthy, positive net worth. Although on paper, I really don't own much at all. But with that property, there is still a mortgage on it. But for the most part, even with that one, it's like, okay, if the renter leaves, I've already got plans for it. And when I buy a property, I'm looking for plans A, B, C, and D. I learned that the hard way with the one that I have in Baltimore. I thought I was going to fix and flip that thing, and then I discovered ain't nobody fixing and flipping in the hood ground zero. It's just not going to happen. Ain't nobody trying to buy there unless it's another investor, and they're not trying to give you retail price for that house. So we ended up renting it out, and it's been a blessing. But you have to have multiple exit strategies. I learned that from Sherman Ragland. You have to have multiple exit strategies. If my only exit strategy for buying a property is it's going to appreciate in 10 years, that is not profitable. That's not worth investing, because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if the market's going to crash again. You don't know if a fire is going to come through. You don't know if a tornado is going to come through. Okay. But if I buy a property and say, well, I want to retire here in 10 years and I can rent it out now, and it's got this other additional dwelling unit I can use for Airbnb, and it's got this, and I can use it for that. And then I can have those multiple streams of income. And then in 10 years, I can go live there. Well, that might be worth it. But you have to do your research, and you have to determine your exit strategies. Like, for example, the house in Maryland. If my renter moves out, which, I kind of wouldn't blame her if she did, because there's promises I've made that I haven't. I said I was going to redo all the floors because it's time. They need to be redone. She's been in there for 15 years now. It's time to redo the floors. But then everything keeps happening. The air conditioning over here goes out. The heater over there goes out. The boiler over here goes out. I mean, one summer we replaced 3 air conditionings. And I mean, I'm a big believer in savings, but that wiped out our savings. That included our own house. And I was like, oh Lord, please help me. This is a lot. The good thing I practice what I preach, but I was like, okay, if she walks out, I'm going to be sad, because I know I would know part of because I didn't do what I said I was going to do, and in the timeline that I originally agreed to, because I really do believe in going cash basis on a lot of these things. Okay. Heat, I got to make sure somebody has heat, but carpet, the whole floor needs to be redone anyway. It's not like, it's not like a couple months is going to wait, but if you've been waiting a couple months, let's just say she goes, I don't even know why I'm talking so much about this. I must be uncomfortable with the topic. I'm going to have to journal about this and process it. Anyway, I have plans for the property. If she moves out, I got plans for the property. I got a plan B and a plan C. I'm not worried about that property. That's what I meant to say. I know what it is. I didn't want to sound callous in case she watches my podcast. I don't think she does, but if she does, I don't want to sound callous. I don't want to sound like like I don't care, because I care. I care very much about my tenants. All my tenants are long-term tenants. They're good tenants. They pay their rent on time. They take good care of the property. They are good people who you want as renters. And I got learned a lot about keeping good tenants from Jeffrey Taylor, Mr. Landlord. And I really feel like if you want to have this symbiotic relationship where you are taking care of your tenants and they are taking care of your property, that's just how it should be. I made a comment to somebody the other day, and they said something like, oh yeah, you became a slumlord. I'm like, whoa, no. Now I have a property in the slums, but it's a nice property in the slums. It's a nice property. We refinished that property very well. We kept a lot of the original architecture, and it's a beautiful property inside. I can't help what the rest of the neighborhood looks like, Anyway, you have to have multiple plans, multiple exit strategies, multiple profit points, because if one doesn't work out, you have to be able to make sure that you're going to still profit. Because at the end of the day, I'm not in real estate to lose money. You shouldn't be either. But the way that most people do real estate, I'm going to go buy a property at retail price. I'm going to pay retail prices for trades to come fix things. They're going to lose money every month. And in their mind, it's okay, because it's going to appreciate one day and it's going to be worth all this one day. And it may not happen. Okay. So when it comes to investing in a property, unless there's an emotional tug on my heart, which I generally recommend people avoid emotional investing. But like, if I have an opportunity to make a difference, then I'm going to take that opportunity if I can afford it. And so like with that little plot of land I was telling you about in the middle of the neighborhood that has no roads, like it's dirt roads. And I'm like, like dirt walkways, right? Like, okay, that's a passion project. That's not investing. I don't consider that an investment property. Okay. My money from my other investment properties takes care of that property because they're all in my self-directed IRA, but but that's not my property. I mean, that's not an investment. Okay. An investment, if you buy it well below market price, and you use cost-effective but still good strategies to fix it up, then you're able to rent it out or to sell it or to offload it to another investor if you need to in a hurry. Those are viable exit strategies that will help you make good money. I'm going to take a quick drink, and I'm going to remind the 6'7" banana he is supposed to be sleeping by now. And that if he can't get to sleep, he should probably go to his room instead of being in here. All right. Good. I'm glad you are. Okay. Let's see. What else do I want to say on that? You know what I need to say on that? Here's what I need to say on that. I really don't want to say this, but I feel like your education wouldn't be complete if I didn't say it. What makes it worth it to buy real estate is not just the money. It's going to vary from investor to investor. Okay. There are going to be some investors out there, they want to build a fast, large portfolio. They want 100 doors by next year. They want to do this. They want to do that. They want to get into commercial. They want to fill in the blank. Everybody has something different that they want to do with real estate. And whether or not it's worth it to you to buy a particular product, to buy a particular property, is going to depend on what your goals are for investing in real estate or buying real estate in the first place. I get a lot of people who come to my tax sales, how to buy a house for $500 or less class, and they want to buy the pretty house across the street. And I'm like, that's not how tax sales work. And so then they're very disappointed because they didn't come to me to go buy the dilapidated house 2 counties over. They came to me to how they could buy the house that they want to live in with them and their family and their grandkids and have a beautiful yard and all the things. And I'm like, well, that's not how that works. And sometimes you get that. Like one of our mentors in Louisiana, he got this old Victorian style wraparound porch house. He used it as an office for a while and then he sold it. But he got that out of subject to deal. And there's a property over here. Somebody got it for, maybe a couple $1,000s on a tax sale. And it's a historical building. And not one of those horrible historical buildings, but like one of those really impressive ones. He's trying to sell it now for $600,000. And I'm just like, man, I wish I had the money. I sure would have bought it. I probably wouldn't have. It's very overpriced at $600, but that's okay. Sometimes that's one thing. Oh, I'm going to offend people again. You know what? I'll save that offense for the question that it goes with, because there's another question in the queue that goes with that offense. And if we get to it, I'll do it. And if not, I'll offend you all again another time. Okay. Okay. So, what's important to you as an investor is what's going to determine what's important in whether or not you buy the property or don't buy the property. So for me, what's important to me as an investor is I don't want to ever be in a situation again where I cannot pay my bills. And so for me, I'm not going to buy a property that I can't afford. I'm not going to buy a property on the promise that one day it might just possibly appreciate and be worth more. I'm not going to buy a property on future promises. I'm going to look at the numbers right now. What are the market rents if this place is fixed up? What does it look like it's going to take to fix it up? I always add a little extra padding. And I always plan for 25% vacancy. It's not going to be 25% vacancy, but if you plan for 25% vacancy, somehow, I almost want to say magically, but I don't believe in magic. And the magic that I would believe in is not kosher with me. So, but somehow somehow it just seems to work out that way, that if you do your projections that way, that it really does work out, that you profit very nicely when everything settles down. And what a lot of people don't do is they don't take the fact that vacancy, you've got taxes, repairs, other little things like the lawn. Like you can tell your renters to do the lawn, but what if they don't do the lawn? And in some markets, it doesn't matter. Ain't nobody going to bother you. But in Bossier Parish, they will cut that yard for you and give you $150 charge. And if your renters aren't getting the lawn, Well, they probably aren't going to pay you $150 to fix it either. So then you're going to have to either evict them or figure something else out, but you got to have strategies for all those kinds of things. Okay. And so, what's important to each investor is also going to determine that. I had one, I think I told you all the story of the last real estate class. I had somebody that was trying to get me to sign up for the $25,000 coaching program. And I really wanted to, y'all. And I loved their business model. It was like, you pay so much up front. And then when we help you make the rest of the money, then you pay us the rest of it out of your profits, and I was good with that. Right. But then he made the comment about, well, your way of investing in real estate is inefficient and it's not a good idea because I made all this money. Investing and leveraging debt. And I thought to myself, yeah, but I heard you the other day talking about how you were broke and you were starting over again. So I don't know how much money he made in real estate, but clearly whatever he made, he did not keep. And I'm not here to have property and be a flash in the pan. I'm here to be a slow, controlled burn and one that sustains to the end. Okay. And so everybody's got a different thing. Some people just want to hurry up, invest and get lots of doors because they have another purpose with it. Maybe they have an experience that they're trying to understand. They have a book that they're trying to write and they're trying to get as much experience as they can in one go. And they're willing to take on that risk. And I'm just not. I want to sleep well at night. And I want you to sleep well at night too. And I want to have profit, not loss. I can have loss just by shopping all the time. So if I was going to waste my money, I'd rather waste it shopping than waste it in buying something poorly. Okay. All right. Next question. All right. Our question is, do I need an LLC for investing? Okay. This is a great question. A lot of people are going to tell you, go out and buy your LLC so that you can invest. And generally speaking, that is going to be good advice. However, we have to understand that there's different types of LLCs and there's different types of protection. And what a lot of people say is, oh, I'm going to go get a Delaware or a Las Vegas LLC or a Nevada LLC, and they're not going to be able to touch me if something happens on that property. Well, if a single member LLC in just about every state, I got to check on Delaware and Nevada specifically, or Wyoming. I got to remember which ones. I should have looked that up before we started talking. But almost every state, a single member LLC, that veil is easily pierced because it's not the same protections as a multi-member LLC. And a multi-member LLC doesn't have the same protections if it's just you and your spouse, you and your kid. It has to be people at arm's length. And at arm's length is a real estate term. Well, I'm sure they use it for other things as well, but it's a real estate term that basically means you're not related. You're not related up or down, and you're not related sideways. Okay. Actually, sideways might be okay in some real estate deals, but I know up and down, nope. So mother, son, that's not at arm's length. Spouse, not at arm's length. Uncle, sister, brother, maybe, depending on the application. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a CPA. So don't quote me on any of those. Go get your own go get your own, what was I going to say? Go get your own professional advice. See, if you were my professional client, then I would do the research on your situation before I give you your answer. The answers I give today are just general in nature. They're not specific to your situation. So you can't run with them without checking with your own financial, real estate, legal professionals who can help advise your specific situation. Okay. All right. So do you need an LLC for investing? You don't need one, but I think it's advisable. And when you, and I can tell you one reason why an LLC is advisable is like the very first time I did tax sales in Louisiana. I got all these properties. Y'all, I was so excited. I was like, yay, my first tax sale in Louisiana. And I had done tax sales in Maryland, but I hadn't done any in Louisiana. And I was kind of scared too, because it's a little, Louisiana real estate is like Napoleonic law. So it's a little weird. And I'm just a little scared of things that are weird, But I was a realtor in Maryland for 10 years and Virginia for 5 years. So, I was comfortable with those markets. But with an LLC or some other investment vehicle, you won't make the same mistake that I made, which was when Civic Source asked, well, what's the name? What's your name? I put my name. I didn't realize that was the name for titling. And if you'll use Civic Source, let me give you this plug. Okay. Let me pause for a second. I want to make sure that the AI genie that cuts these gets this. If you use Civic Source for your investments, make sure you check before every single purchase that the titling name is correct, because I have multiple times had CivicSource put my name in the titling block. And yet I have been investing in tax sales since I first moved to Louisiana in 2016. So that would be the 2017 tax sale. That's 8 years of investing in Louisiana tax sales through CivicSource. And the first year I messed up and thought it meant my name because it asked for my name and my driver's license. Then I found out it was the titling instructions. You best believe I went and changed that to my IRA trust. Okay. And yet magically the next time it still went back to my name. And then I changed it again and it went back to my name and I changed it again. This last year, it went to my name. It said my IRA trust for benefit of my name. And I was like, I know I did not type that. So make sure you make sure you check your titling instructions before you begin the sale on online sale places like CivicSource. Okay. But if you don't want your name on all those things. You want, I mean, sometimes when we first get started, we want to feel all big and bad and we got all these doors and things. No, that's not smart investing. You don't want to open yourself up to that kind of liability. Okay. All right. Next. So the answer, do you need an LLC for investing? You don't need an LLC for investing. An LLC is a good first layer of protection. However, it's not the be all and end all, because if you have a single member LLC, it's going to be easy for them to find out who you are. Okay. If you have an LLC that's just you and a spouse or somebody else who's not at arm's length, it's going to be easy for them to find out who you are. Okay. And so while it is a good thing to invest through an LLC, especially if you are a woman or a person of color in markets that don't generally approve of women or people of color buying their real estate, then you probably do want to use an LLC. So it can be very, very helpful in those situations. Okay. As you grow in your real estate, of course, you're going to want the bottom line protection of that LLC. And maybe even you want to start incorporating land trusts and things like that, trusts for your properties. Okay. You want to consider the totality of it. But, all you need to invest is to be able to go out there and buy it. If you buy yourself a house to live in it for a couple years and then move to the next house, that's going to be in your name. And maybe you put the other one in the LLC. I hope you have the profit to do that. Or you wait until you do have the profit to do that. I don't want you going into debt for these things. Okay. So I also don't want you to be exposed too long for liability. So maybe you use your address for something, but then once you get in a better position, you change that. So your personal address is not out there in all the records. But there are some jurisdictions where you can buy it through an LLC. They're gonna find a way to put your personal information out there. I'm like, really? Depending on the LLC. Okay. All right. Next question. Is this our last question today? Oh no, I've got 2 more. Okay. They're quick though. This one might be a little bit longer. Aren't you worried about RMDs for self-directed IRAs? Okay, hang on a second. Okay, let me say that again. This, aren't you, wow, okay. All right, this is an interesting question. Aren't you worried about RMDs for self-directed IRAs? Okay, RMDs is required minimum distributions. It is a rule that the IRS has to prevent the growth of dynasties. Okay. A lot of people talk about generational wealth. They also talk about dynastic wealth, which extends, 100 generations or things like that. Our tax code does not like dynasties. Okay. Our tax code wants to make sure that the money that you are holding on to doesn't go to your kids. It does go to your kids, but more importantly, they want it back into the market. They want people buying stuff and they want people paying taxes. Okay. So especially with these Roth IRAs where you're not paying taxes on the growth of that money, the IRS is like, we gotta do something about this. So the rules around required minimum distributions have changed a lot over the last couple of years. And depending on when you're watching this, because we're recording it in October of 2025, by the time we get to 2026, it could change again, okay? But right now, required minimum distributions is what the IRS says you have to do if you have an IRA or some kind of some kind of retirement account. When you hit 73 years old, if you have not started taking money out of that account, they will give you a calculation based on your life expectancy and however they calculate that, right? And based on how much is in there and how much they expect you to live. I imagine they use like actuarial tables, which are the tables the insurance people use to figure out how long you reasonably will live so they can decide how much of it to charge you for your insurance, okay? There's people out there who make a whole living doing this, okay? So they look at how much longer you have to live, they look at how much money's in that account, and they come out with a number. And that number, you got to take that amount out every year, okay? And so your required minimum distributions is something that everybody who has an IRA and lives long enough for is going to be hit with. The IRS is going to make you drain that account. Now, should you die before you drain that account transitions to your kids. And it used to be back in the day, you as a young person could roll those funds into your own IRA and the clock starts over. But then it was like, oh no, now we're setting up dynastic wealth and too many. Nope, don't say it. Let me go back. Now we have created a situation where certain people who aren't supposed to be wealthy are finding a way to pass on wealth to their kids. So we got to do something about this. Because too many poor people use smart vehicles like IRAs and insurance to get ahead. What are we going to do? Okay. And so what they've decided now is that if you inherit an IRA, okay, it has to be fully depleted in 10 years. All right. So if I pass away, the value of my self-directed IRA and my other IRAs that I had from before I got involved in real estate, okay, all of that has to be emptied in 10 years by my kids. Okay. Or my husband, I guess. I need to check the rules on that. Don't quote me on the husband thing, okay? Because I need to check the rules on that. But I know for sure if I inherit my parents' IRA, it has to be used up in 10 years. If my kids inherit my IRA, it has to be used up in 10 years, okay? And so that's if I'm 75 and I've already been taking my required minimum distributions from my IRA and then my kids inherit it, okay, they need to take RMDs and then at the 10th year they empty the account, okay? So this is interesting. This is interesting for a lot of people because what it does is it forces the emptying of the account. It returns the money back into service. It gets people spending. It gets people doing things with the money. And most importantly, for the rate that the government cares about is they get more taxes. Okay. The problem with a self-directed IRA, where you are putting illiquid assets like real estate, okay, real estate, crypto, collectibles. You can buy anything with a self-directed IRA except I think gambling stuff and porn, okay? And so if you've got anything that's not easy to sell in that IRA when you turn 73, it could be really difficult for you to liquidate it and meet the required minimum distributions. So I was actually, it's funny this question came in today because I was actually at FinCon. And I was talking with an accountant who's like, well, I don't recommend self-directed IRAs to my clients. And actually my CPA does a mix, for a lot of people, she recommends, is it a simple IRA that entrepreneurs use a specific IRA product that allows you to throw a lot more money into it. But she also recommends self-directed IRAs for investing in real estate. So it's kind of a mix of the two. But this accountant that I was talking to at FinCon, she's like, yeah, I don't recommend those, because what do you do about the RMDs? So I think it's funny that this question came up, because we had a great conversation about it. And the thing is, though, if I've got a property in Baltimore that I paid $3,000 for, and it's right at ground zero, so I think the value of the property isn't that much, what are the required distributions? I'm pretty sure the rent is going to cover that for a long time. And then you sell the property off, that you sell the property off when I die. That's for my heirs to figure out. But like, I'm not personally worried about it, because it's going to be a long, because the property is making a lot in rent, but it's not worth anything as a live-in property. It's worth something. You know what I'm saying? Like some properties, the property we live in now has a value because of the neighborhood it's in, the school district that it's in, stuff like that. That's the value of this as a living space. The value of that property as a living space is low. The value of that property is more in the commercial sense, where, okay, it's making this much per month. So for me to buy a cash flow worth this much per month, for me to get a 10% ROI on my money, you would pay way more than the property's actually worth. And I actually am trying to sell it, but I'm not charging like the to get a 10 cap, I would charge you, about $100,000 on that property. Well, nothing in that neighborhood is worth $100,000. So I'm kind of like, okay, well, let's just split the difference and do 50 or 60 on it. So if you're looking for a property in Baltimore that's throwing off $1,000 a month, I got one for you. All right. And it's already got a property manager, y'all, and a really good tenant. Okay. Back to the question, though. I'm personally not worried about RMDs. The people that need to be worried about RMDs are the people who are buying real estate on mortgage. So some self-directed IRAs won't let you have any kind of loan against your property. Others have what they call, is it non-recourse? Others have a policy where the only recourse for failure to pay for that property is the bank takes the property back. And they can't go after anything else. Okay. And so some IRAs allow that. Well, if I've got a property that's worth $100,000 and the IRS says, okay, you're 73, you're probably going to live to 93, over 20 years, $100,000, blah, 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 blah. You got to take out whatever you got to take out, I don't know. I have not done these calculations. I'm not going to try to do math in public, but let's just say it's like $700 a month, $900 a month. Well, it's being rented for more than that. But now you got a mortgage. So you got a mortgage, and now that property is only putting $100 a month into your account. I would not have advised you to buy that, okay? Because that's not enough. But you did, and you didn't know any better. You hadn't met me yet, and so you have what you have. And that's gonna be hard for you, because now in order for you to take your RMDs, you're gonna have to sell that property or sell something else in the portfolio to make up for it. And so that's really the only issue that I see with people with RMDs. But I mean, if you're buying property pennies on the dollar and you're buying property that's paid in full, this should not be a problem for you to deal with. Now, it might be a problem for your heirs, because they will have to liquidate that account in 10 years. But I'm gonna let them boys figure that one out. They can sell those properties. Oh, I hope I live a healthy enough life to enjoy taking RMDs. Now, we always talk about how you can't take your IRA money too early, but it's so rare that I come across clients who they just didn't need the money. They structured their life and lived less than they made and invested the difference. And they live a life where they don't need that money right away. And they are a sufficient health, which is not always in our control. I got another one of them notices today from radiology. A lot of that, some of our health is just not in our control. We can do everything that you're trying to do. You can try to do everything that you're supposed to do. And sometimes things just don't go the way that they're supposed to go, but, you can still control the controllables. And it's always a blessing when you can be on that other end and you've done everything you can do to know that you're having a good life and you're having a good policies in place and you've done the best that you can do. Okay. And so it is a treat when somebody is in that position where they haven't needed it. We'll talk another time about not taking your money out too soon, because that's a lot of penalties. Okay, next question. Do you allow pets? Why or why not? Do I allow pets is going to depend on the property. If I get a property that's already got pet damage, I do allow pets in that property. The damage that's already done, I offer the tenant one of two things. I can fix the property back up to its pristine condition, because maybe a dog tore it up, but they actually have, I don't know, fish, which I've learned can be a bigger risk than a dog sometimes. Okay, but let's say a dog scratched up the window seals every time the owner came home, and they have birds, or they have fish, or they have something that's not, well, birds might too, but they have something that's not going to claw up the windowsill. They might want me to fix it up. I charge a pet fee, an extra pet fee, and it's not refundable. That's a pet application fee. But it's a hefty fee. And then I charge a pet rent, and I add to the security deposit for a pet. Well, what I also do is I tell them, hey, if you're okay with the damage that's already been done and you're not requiring me to fix it to pristine condition, I will waive those fees, and we will only charge you for anything that's beyond normal wear and tear for your pet. Okay, so like I don't like cats. I don't like cats in the house. I don't mind dogs, but I don't like cats in the house. Well, I didn't know till I got a cat. It's really hard to control where a cat goes, right? And so I've had to rethink that policy a little bit. But I had one tenant that the cat was supposed to stay in the garage. Well, the cat got in the house and urinated on the carpet, which leaves, of course, a stain, usable urine stain. That is not normal wear and tear when your cat's supposed to stay in the garage, okay? And so, but if the dog scratches up a little bit more here and there, as long as it's not extensive damage, it was already damaged by the person who had the house before I got it, the person who had it before I moved in, so I don't mind pets per se, but we do charge extra for pets. And then we do also make the allowance that if you want us to fix up the pet damage, we're going to allow a little bit of wear and tear. I mean, you can't have especially if you have you have the hardwood floors and stuff. I'm going to be careful about that, because you don't, but like the windowsills, they're going to get up there and they're going to want to see their owner, and there's going to be little scratches, but big gouges, oh yeah, that's coming out of your security deposit, So yes, I do allow pets. I imagine if I ever had a pristine house, I wouldn't allow pets, but I've never had a pristine house yet, because the way that I buy real estate, I never get a pristine house. And I'm always looking for where I can save money. I want things to be beautiful and I want things to be nice, but I don't need things to be perfect unless the tenant needs them to be perfect, and the tenant's going to pay me for them to be perfect. Okay. Because if we can go along and get along, everybody works out together, and then it works. Okay. Okay. So that's my answer on the pets. And I do believe this is my last question, unless somebody has any comments. And I will also pick up the Ladies of Wealth. Let me just go into there and see if we've got any questions. But so far, I haven't seen any questions come through on the banner here. So I'm about to do my last question. If you have a question for me, go ahead and put it in the chat so I can look. Let's see. This person sent a question. Let's see what they sent. Okay, this doesn't have anything to do with real estate, so we're going to hold that to the next time. Yeah, you can go to ladiesofwealth.com/contact, okay? All right, last question. Oh, that's a great one. Where do you find your deals? I think a lot of real estate investors are creatures of habit, and once they have a good thing going, they kind of stick with it. So where I find my deals depends on where I'm investing. If I'm going to spend significant time, no, let me not even say that, because it's probably not going to happen. My husband is pretty adamant that he's staying in Texas. And so I honestly did think we were going to move after Philip graduated, but he was like, yeah, no, we're staying in Texas. And so I'm trying to sell off my properties on the East Coast, to be honest with you, because I don't like being a long distance landlord. And so, but if I was still out there, I would probably get most of my deals through my real estate investment clubs, which the two that I'm a member of Maria. I haven't rejoined Sherman's group, which is DC RIA. And then I used to also attend Tammy Phelps' group, which I'm not sure if it's still going, but hers was the one that met in Arlington, Virginia. So at Mid-Atlantic RIA, Real Estate Investment Association, that's in Baltimore. Sherman Ragland's meets out of Bowie, Maryland. That's the DC RIA. And then Tammy Phelps, who met in, not Arlington, Alexandria, Virginia. Her group, I think it's the Capital City RIA. I don't, it's been a while, so I don't quite remember. But those are the groups that had the wholesalers who found the properties that I bought. And when I wasn't ready to actually buy, I teach against getting into debt, but I don't have any problem with if you've got extra savings that you don't, above your 3 to 6 month saving plan and, savings account. If you've got extra savings and you want to put $5, $10, $25,000 into somebody else's real estate deal, I'm not going to tell you don't do that. That's how I got my feet wet again and got started feeling comfortable with real estate again after all these losses, And so if you didn't hear about the losses and you're listening to me as part of the Ladies of Wealth podcast, I encourage you to go either to my YouTube channel and check out the 16 October real estate Ask Me Anything class, or go back a couple of episodes, because it should be 2 episodes before this one, what I'm saying right now, actually airs. I got to remember where we start and stop the podcasts. But back then, that's where I found my deals through, because you either had people that were putting together joint ventures like that, or you had wholesalers that were bringing deals to the table. And I'm not good at wholesaling. I have taught people for the last 12 or so years how to wholesale. You know why I've taught people how to wholesale, even though I'm not that great at it? They say those who can't teach. This is one case where that's true, because I need people to bring me deals, because I just don't have the face for negotiating. That's why I have a look, don't ask me for money. Okay. Because I'm not going to do it. Don't ask me for money. If you come to me and say, the Lord told me to ask you the money to get through. No, I know, because me and the Lord have an agreement. My face is too trusty looking. And so me and the Lord have an agreement. If anybody comes up to me and says that the Lord told them to give them money, or if anybody comes up to me asking for cash, the answer is no. Flat out no. When the Lord wants me to bless somebody monetarily, he leads me, he guides me to do so. And usually he doesn't lead me and guide me to help somebody monetarily without actually engaging them in their place of business or in their service of business. So before the Lord tells me to give you a cash handout, he will have me engage you to work on some aspect of my business. Okay. So yeah, let's just get that clear. But because that's my face and I know that about myself, I always just found it easier to buy through wholesalers, because wholesalers have already done the negotiating. And if you're not familiar with the term wholesaler, go back out probably January or February to our Real Estate 101 class. And it gives the overview of the 20 different ways that 20 plus ways you can invest in real estate without ever buying the house, right? You can profit from real estate without, let me say that again, 20 plus ways that you can profit from real estate without even buying the house, But if you go out there, and I think the next one in the series is Wholesaling 101, you can learn more about it. But just a little quick synopsis. What a wholesaler does is they find a property and they negotiate a selling price. So it may not even have been for sale. They might have had a sign out, cash, fast cash, buy any property, any condition. And somebody calls them up and then they negotiate a deal. And now they have a contract, and they take that contract to the real estate investor group or to the people in their mailing list and say, hey, I got this contract. The property's going to cost you blah, blah, blah. And the property is going to cost you whatever it costs. And they're going to take some of that as their wholesale fee. And that's how a lot of people make money when they get started in real estate, who don't have money to go buy and hold. So they wholesale, make money, and then buy a property with their profits to buy and hold. Okay. They wholesale, make money, buy another property to flip. And maybe they use a series of flip monies to buy their buy and holds. Okay. It's a very, very wonderful. I'm flubbing over my words today. Wholesaling is a great way to get started in real estate investing. And if you get connected with an experienced wholesaler, it's a great way for you to find a property at a great price, because they've already done the heavy lifting of negotiating the purchase price for you. Okay. But since I'm not there and I live in an area where I don't I haven't found. I've started one. I've started the Ladies of Wealth. If you're in Stephenville, I've started the Ladies of Wealth Stephenville group on Meetup, and I'm going to start putting it on Eventbrite and stuff too, where we can talk about real estate investing amongst other things. I'm very excited about that. But I haven't found a real estate investment group here locally that allows me in. I am associated with the West DFW Real Estate Investment Group out of Weatherford. And for about a year or so, year and a half, I ran their women's group. And I loved it. It was wonderful. But I knew that this, with being in the promise and all the other things that me and my son were doing, that I just wasn't going to be able to sustain that. So somebody named Devin, oh my goodness, she's amazing, y'all. So if y'all are interested in that group, let me know and I'll hook you up with a link to try it out. Okay, at no charge. You can be my guest. Okay. But yeah, so I'm connected with that group, but that's an hour away, hour and a half away, depending on where they meet that week, or that month for their monthly meetings. So, it's important for you to find local advisors and mentors. But since I don't have that connection here, this is where, if you were with us earlier when I talked about the mistakes that I made, I said I had one more thing that was going to offend a lot of people. This is another thing that's going to offend people. Or if you're listening on the podcast, go a couple episodes back and you'll hear that. It should be the one about what do I wish I knew about real estate. I don't know what we're ultimately going to title it, but it's going to basically be something about what do you wish you knew before you bought your first property, And one of the things that I talked about being offensive was a lot of complications due to race. And I live in an area of the country where there's a lot of complications due to race and gender when it comes to buying real estate. And so when it comes to buying real estate, this is where that LLC comes in handy. And when it comes to buying real estate, this is where operating on the online tax sales comes in handy. Because on the online tax sales, they can't tell you no. They can't stop you from buying the property. Where I am locally, and I told my husband the other day, I was like, every time I see these properties that I'm interested in, every single time, no matter how long it's been on the market, I tell a realtor that I'm interested in it, and the next day it's sold. Now, I'm sure that's just a coincidence of the devil to frustrate me and make me mad. But I have been told to my face that there are people who won't sell to me or rent to me because I am a woman, or because I'm an outsider, or because of my race. Let me take that back. I don't think anybody said to my face about my race. Somebody said that might be a problem, because I was like, oh, you mean like why my son doesn't get invited to birthday parties? Yeah. So it's a lot of really good things about living out here in Stephenville, Texas. I really do appreciate the fact that I can still pray in the name of Jesus in public. I love the fact that there are, you have school events. You can still use a scripture if you feel like it. I love those things, but there's still some issues, especially for women. Now, there's still some issues in building wealth. And so it's one of those things where if you've got those issues, you have to find a legal way to work around them. And that's why I have started investing. This will be my first year of doing it in other counties' tax sales that do it online. And so that's another avenue that you can use. And so I also continue to invest in Louisiana, because in Louisiana tax sales, you can walk away with 100% ownership for very little cost. Texas in other states also give you 100% ownership. But you're going to basically pay, for the same property, you're going to pay 10 to 100 times more for that property. And so you have less of a waiting period, but you're going to pay more. And so those were the things that I balanced. But yes, as far as investing in Texas, right now I'm doing tax sales, and I go to the ones at the courthouse. I'll be there November the 4th. If y'all want to come, they'll have wait a second. Are they going to do one on November the 4th? Isn't that voting? Hold on. Let me check that. Yeah, I can check it later. But now I'm curious. I could have sworn I got a tax sale notice. Yeah, notice of sale for November. But I could have sworn we're having a mayor election on November. Stephenville mayor election. Oh. It is November 4th. So they're probably going to cancel that. Anyway, y'all didn't need to know that. I'm sorry about that. But where to find the deals is really going to depend on what jurisdiction you're in. I highly recommend connecting with a real estate investment association. And if you're like me in a situation where you have to be a little creative about how you buy your properties, get that LLC and get online where they can't tell you no. That's all I have for you today. I hope you've enjoyed that. If you're listening to me as part of the podcast, I hope you will join us in our live broadcast every Thursday night, 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern. That's all I've got for you today. Take care and be blessed.